is June Lee, and I'm 62 years old. I have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and 1 sister, and then I was very different in a way that I was not a typical quiet Korean girl, very outspoken from the get-go, and then I had always my opinion. And then my parents, very typical traditional couple, the father working hard and mother being a full-time homemaker. And then my father was my role model that was in a business of international trade. So I was able to see a lot of his world, a lot of outer world and wider world through his eyes. So I think that I was very proud of my father, not because that he was financially successful, but because that I was able to see what I really wanted to see through his eyes. He used to bring a lot of guests and business partners who are non-Koreans. So I started to hear a lot of different languages, which is not Korean, and then started to learn the stories they bring. Even though back then I didn't understand the story they were telling to my father, but my sister, who was 12 years older than I was able to translate in a half-baked way. So I was just following the storyline and then hoping that I would like to experience the wider and broader world. And then I didn't have exactly occupational kind of aspiration, like I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, none of that, but I wanted to observe what's not given to me in narrow Korean context, and then grow up to be a really kind of a person with a balanced and a wider perspective. That was my general kind of aspiration. I didn't know that I was going to change my job and become a nonprofit person, but what happened is that when I was pregnant with my daughter, I don't know whether it was a chemistry change or whatever, but I started to feel like that, what is the meaning of my job? I was starting to think about, okay, I'm gonna have a daughter, and then she's gonna grow up, and then what's gonna be my story to her? I think that was the kind of momentum for me to start thinking about intrinsic value in life. That's how I got into nonprofit. I think I joined the KCCEB in 2010, I think it was April. KCCEB has been in this area for a long time. It predates me, so there was a big reputation. It was a very trusted agency in the community. When I landed here, I thought that KCCEB's mission was very lofty and then good, which is empowerment of the Koreans and Korean immigrant in the Bay Area through services, education, community resource development, and advocacy. So we did a lot of presentations to federal agencies, state agencies, and county government, as well as private agencies, so that we can become, we really were able to raise the visibility of the Korean community. And in the process, we also raised the visibility of the Korean Community Center of the East Bay. And then from there, we were able to gather resources to build the program accordingly. And then the other thing that is very different is now our framework is very community outcome-based, impact-based, as opposed to program or service data-based. And then from there, we collaborate with a lot of different agencies in the Bay Area, and then start to lift the Asian voice in general. And then raising the Asian community voice is very critical in increasing the support for Korean community, because when you speak volume on behalf of the Asian community, including the Korean community, you will get more attention and the more political power to help the Koreans. So that's the more of a individual level to systematic change work that we were able to establish over the course of last 12 years. So all this work that we're doing, now we frame it under community health, but we have a health and prosperity framework, meaning that at the end of the day, empowerment means that enabling people to their fullest potential. Basically, what we did is pretty simple. There's a great mission, but let's fully realize that mission. So that's what we have been working on. Always the memorable moment is when I see a real impact on people. So I have two stories to tell you about our seniors. One senior just came in, knocked on our door with the usual support, such as I need a social service, social SSI, income, which is basically public benefits that you can get when you're really low income. In the process, we also learned that he was horribly depressed, living alone in his apartment with $800 a month. Sometimes it stops because he doesn't know how to renew the benefit, because the renewal notice comes into his mailbox in English, and he doesn't know how to read it. So we learned that he was, in depression. So we were combining our mental services with the social services, and then we do have a senior leadership program called the Jikimi. In Korean, that means protector, community protector. Started out as a mental health stigma reduction program. We adopted a model combining popular media with a popular education. So basically, we use the Korean drama. So they come and watch Korean drama. We used Dear My Friends. So people are supposed to watch that drama, and then during the session, they talk about the drama characters. And then during that time, instead of talking about their own mental health issue, they can externalize it. Oh, such and such drama character did that. And then we have a curriculum that leading that to something more serious conversation. And then also there is a very kind of intentional point that we present pervasive mental health issues in Korean community, making shifting the focus from individual to collective. So it's nothing wrong with you, but this is a pervasive issue, and then what do you want to do about it? Instead of receiving the service, we can do something about it. What's your solution? And then they started to talk about their own solution. In that process, they feel really empowered. So that elderly gentleman who came to seek that $800 service per month was really smiling, fully smiling at the end of that 36 months, because he became a Jikimi and then helping his senior colleagues to vote. So he's like, I helped my friend to vote. So that was one example of empowerment that I'm really, really touched by. And then another example happened during the COVID, because we didn't know exactly the living situation of all the seniors that we support, right? So we just received a call, and there was a meal program, Screen for Eligibility started to deliver meals. And then this one person, oh, he doesn't have an address. Oh, what's his living situation? He's living in a car. We brought him in and then, processed for all the public benefits, so he was able to get some residence and then, food and everything. And then later on, he told us that he had a heart attack and then didn't have health insurance until the KCCEB was helping to restore that insurance. And then he was also telling us that everything was going down. I didn't have my job. I worked as an Uber driver. This is my home. This is my work. But nobody wanted to ride my car because it's dirty and I'm old and I don't speak English. I didn't have a job. So I was thinking, this is it. Maybe I'll just end my life. At that time, volunteer from the parking line called him. Oh, can I help you with something? We're doing this meal program. So he started to speak Korean and then started to engage with KCCEB staff as well as other seniors. So after 6 months, not only he stopped his suicide ideation, but he started to deliver food for other seniors using his car. So that's the kind of story that I will always remember. I think I'm going to remember this story on my deathbed. KCCEB, as a strong organization, needs to be able to respond in changing needs. So it is my intention and hope to support KCCEB continue to be that strong organization that can respond to changing needs of the Korean population going forward. And then that's also related to our prosperity work. And then by involving second generation, 1.0 generation in the context of philanthropy and civic engagement, we can be stronger together. I want KCCEB to be the conduit of that force. I hope the Korean community and individuals, as an individual and also collectively, can live their lives to their fullest potential. The definition will be different by individual and collectives. However, I think it's everybody's right to be able to live their lives to their fullest potential.